Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's show with SportsbookReview.com. I'm your host, Lee Martin, here to talk some UFC. Joining me today, I have SBR's UFC expert, David Manyun, and MMA Mania's lead host, Matt Ryan. And before we get into all the good, juicy stuff, like always, just go ahead real quick, give this video a like, and subscribe to our channel so you never miss a show. Now, let's get to it. Today, we're breaking down the entire main card breakdown for UFC Fight Night or UFC Vegas 22, Derek Brunson versus Kevin Holland, and this is going to be a great fight. I've been looking forward for this fight weekend for a couple weeks. Actually, no, longer than a couple weeks, I should say. But before I get ahead of myself, I want to recap, like always, UFC Vegas 21. That was Leon Edwards versus Belal Muhammad, and you can tell by how I'm talking. I was frustrated by this past weekend. Okay, it was deja vu from UFC 259 with Petr Yan versus Aljamain Sterling. We had Eric Anders with an illegal knee, and then we had Leon Edwards give Belal Muhammad the nastiest eye poke. But I definitely want to hear what you guys think about that fight weekend. So, Dave, I'll begin with you. How did your fight night go this past weekend?
Yeah, look, it all went downhill from the Eric Anders and Darren Stewart fight. Another illegal. What is the chances? Another illegal knee, preventing the fight from finishing. But this time, for some strange reason, they decided it was a no contest and the fight was declared a draw.
Yeah.
So, that's great if you were betting on the fight because you would have been gifted your money back. But, taking a title off a man 1 week to then come into the next event and call it a no contest was a bit strange. But that's whatever. Most surprising, really, for me on the main card was Davy Grant. And I will have put my hands up. I did not research this fight as much as I wanted to last week, and I was really happy. I predicted Martinez to get the win, but Davy Grant pulled through, and for my side of the world, it was great to see an English fighter get a win against a guy in Jonathan Martinez. But then, the obvious, the Leon Edwards Belal Muhammad fight. I mean, some people might hate on me for this, but, did Edwards do enough to prove he was better than Belal? In my opinion, he did. Instantly, Edwards took the center of the octagon, which is usually Belal's space. There was no pressure. He took that pressure away from Belal, exactly what I said Edwards needed to do. He actually did. And he looked sharp as ever on the feet. All those suckers talking about ring rust, they really should stop hanging off the words of all these expert YouTube cappers who have never entered a gym in their life. Because ring rust only exists in fighters who do not remain active. So as long as you do your research and can figure out that this fight, like Leon Edwards had 4 cancelled fights. The guy has been consistently active. Just because he hasn't been in the octagon, the guy is in shape and he was in the best shape of his life. Belal couldn't touch Edwards. Let's be honest. Belal is a high output striker. In a lot of Belal's fights, he lands a lot and he has a significantly high output. That was not the case this time. He couldn't touch him. Do they need to run it back? I mean, if you want to run it back out of respect for the situation, I understand that. But what's going to be different? I think it's not going to be a main event fight. It's going to be a 3-rounder, and Leon Edwards is going to win that fight 9 times out of 10. Yeah. Belal got the clinch late in round 1. It took Edwards 30 seconds to get out of that. Why did Belal want the clinch? Because he didn't want to stand and strike with the better striker. Belal wanted nothing on the feet, and he couldn't get the fight where he wanted it. He held that position, like I just said, it was 20, 30 seconds, and that was it. Edwards' shots were landing with force. Belal, when he did touch Edwards, it was just doing that exactly, touching him. One nasty body kick and a decent elbow from Belal is all I took from that. But other than that, for me, it was lackluster on Belal's behalf. And, he was looking like to get knocked out in the first round with that head kick. A beautiful head kick from Leon Edwards. The feinting from his leg kicks were great, and constant switching of the stance, complete confusion for a guy like Belal. And it was a horrible ending. Watching the fight back, as soon as Belal dropped to the floor, I hit X on my tab because I was not about to listen to Belal Muhammad scream in pain again. That was horrible, and it was a sad situation all around. Both men ended up in tears. Nobody wanted it to end that way. But I think Belal's handling this in a negative way. I don't like how he's going online with it. He's not being the Belal that we all know and love, like the respectful Belal who, gained a certain hype from being who he is on social media. But that's a different story, and I'm not sure they will run it back. I really don't know how this division's going to pan out now. I just know that I was happy with what I saw from Leon Edwards, and so long as it's not straight to Usman, I will be looking at backing Edwards again because he is a damn good fighter.
Yeah. Honestly, like, I just feel like they just need to fix the gloves at this point. I doubt they'll run this fight back since he came in as a substitute for Chimaev, but they just need to fix the gloves already to prevent.
Somebody has designed another pair of gloves.
I know, but Dana White wants the patent in the UFC's name, not the guy's name. So the guy said no. So now they're without it.
That's what's stopping it.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. But anyway, how about you, Matt? How was your weekend?
Wait, Dana White's putting fighter safety in the way of profits? No! It's not like he announced something extremely reckless just about 2 days ago. No, that's not out of pocket for Dana White at all. To quote the greatest band to ever come out of Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada, Belal Muhammad's eyes cry every night because, well, he just got Three Stooges live in front of God and everybody on national television. I don't know if they should run this fight back. Leon Edwards deserves a title fight, but we've seen the level of subterfuge and hijinkery that the UFC has gone through to deny Leon Edwards his opportunity at a title shot, at a major fight. So I would see the UFC throwing that roadblock in terms of a Muhammad rematch in his way. This card this weekend, I'm waiting to surprise me. You're doing the research for this fight, and it feels like one of those cards where the fight seems strong, the fight seemed competitive, but there's no juice to it. Like, outside of the main event, there's not a lot for me, and maybe not a lot for those who are looking to make a little scratch on these fights to kind of generate any real interest. But there's some gems here. There's some gems in these fighters, and I'm excited to break them down. But Dana, just swallow your pride, pal. Like, you own the MMA universe. He owns like 65% of MMA's living history, and if you can't just see past that for 1 second, the amount of stellar knockouts and clean fights, we want to stop to the boxing level of screwballness. Like, that's the thing that separates MMA and boxing, is that there's less hijinks, less falderall, less, ramshackleness. I'm just using words that I don't want to curse. So I'm using random weird words. So if you're mad at me in the comments, I'm sorry, pull out a thesaurus. But I'm excited to see what these fights are, and I'm jealous of Dave's hair.
Dave has beautiful hair.
Like
you were talking about Dana White caring about people's well-beings. Let's just talk about, we don't have to talk about it, but I'm just going to mention the fact that he has a not partially filled crowd, a packed crowd in Jacksonville for this upcoming weekend. So that should be interesting, in my opinion. But anyway, let's begin our main card breakdown. We do have to break down 5 fights in the main event. We're going to dabble in some prelims, talk about our locks of the night, and go over any questions that you guys have. So if you do have any questions, let us know in the live chat, and we'll do our best to answer your questions. But let's go ahead and get started. We have women's strawweight. Cheyanne Buys. Is it Buys or... Because I've looked everywhere on how to pronounce her name correctly, and everyone says her name differently.
Cheyanne Buys.
That's what I thought. Okay, Cheyanne Buys and Montserrat Ruiz. Via BetOnline, Buys is -360 and Ruiz is +285. Dave, I'll begin with you for your breakdown and pick for the first fight.
Yeah, firstly, I love this fight. For two fresh-faced girls coming into the UFC, this is a really good fight. Now, Montserrat Ruiz, she trains at 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu in Los Angeles with, you might know, Eddie Bravo. She's also trained at King's MMA. She's currently 9-1. My problem for her is that she's 5 foot. Now, I feel sorry because if she had a little bit more height, I feel she'd have her advantages would be stronger. She made a professional MMA debut at Gladiators Coliseum, which is a Mexican promotion. She's a Mexican fighter. And yeah, racking up a 9-fight win streak is really good. Now, she's riding high right now on this undefeated record. and she's fought in Invicta, so it's not like she's not used to a higher level of opposition. And then she was unfortunately sidelined for a year, returned to Invicta, and now she's taken this fight on a week's notice, which that's impressive to me. She's got a background in wrestling. That's where her combat career started, and really that's her forte. Her jiu-jitsu, that is obviously evolving because she's at 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu, and somebody is knocking my door. Just ignore that. And she's fighting a girl in Cheyanne who is another prospect who has we could big her up all day long. After making her way through Invicta and LFA, Bays knew she could compete at the highest level. She had a dominant unanimous decision on Dana White's Contender Series. And, her goal is about to be accomplished this weekend because she wants to get to the UFC, and she has made that very well known. Apparently, she has been texting Dana White consistently for the past 3 years, begging him to get on a UFC card or on the Contender Series. She finally got what she wanted, and she has been impressing me a lot. Martial arts has been a part of this girl since she could walk, taekwondo, karate background, and then during her teens, she found the UFC and began training in MMA. She has got a swagger, she's got an attitude and the fight talk. Her Dana White Contender Series fight against Hillary Rose, I think she did overlook her opponent in Rose, but Rose is a real tough girl. And she proved her worth. She really did. Another thing to note about Bays is that her debut was against an Olympic freestyle wrestler, and she won that. So that is also another impressive thing to note. The striking output against Hillary Rose, though, great jab, decent mixture of strikes. And then she began to implement this, clinch work, a lot of clinch work. It didn't seem necessary considering how much she was dominating on the feet. But, she probably wanted to show that she could fight in all areas. And then it's the power at the end of the strikes that gets me. I'm surprised that she only has one finish, because through her 6 or 7 professional fights, the majority of them have gone to decision. But when you see her strike, she really does put it all in there. And it's good to note as well that her husband is also fighting on the same card. And she went on record to say that since getting with her husband, he really helped elevate her game. And I'm sure there's a few jokes, husband and wife jokes there, because she's on the main card whilst her husband is the first prelim of the night. So I know if it was me and my girl, she would be definitely trolling me how I'm on the undercard and she's on the main card. But the fight itself, Ruiz is going to want to close the distance here and avoid the striking advantage that her opponent is going to hold. Leg kick defense, it seemed non-existent in her sole loss to Danielle Taylor. And to be honest, losing to a former UFC fighter who was dropped, see, this type of mathematics could equal a disaster here. And as I mentioned before, at 5 feet tall, I think the size disadvantage is always going to be an issue for a higher level of fighter. Sometimes size can be the differential in a well-matched fight. It really can. So Bays, I love this girl. Forward pressure, combos, check. Counter striking on point, check. Takedown defense, check. Power, strength inside the clinch, check. And when it comes to Ruiz in the stand-up, she offers very little besides a mean overhand right. I think she's going to get pieced up if this fight stays on the feet. It's hard to criticize a fighter who's 9-1, but a lot of her record is padded. Go look for yourself. I wouldn't say this is an intentional padding because she's took this fight against a serious contender on a week's notice. But I think the main issue for Ruiz is going to be handling the pressure. Danielle Taylor, her only loss, she turned it up, and Ruiz didn't seem to want any of it. She was often turning away from the fight that was in front of her. I love Bays here, I really do. I don't like the price, but I do think she has a majority of and the best advantages here. My only advice would be to her is to avoid the headlock throw from Ruiz, because that is like it's like Ruiz's finishing move. She had a key lock submission over a gut, which is absolutely incredible. So she's got it on the mat, Ruiz, but getting it there and keeping Bays there is another thing. I think this is going to be Bays by decision again, or maybe she can even get that second finish of her career.
Well, there we go. Well, how about you, Matt? Do you agree with Dave, or do you have a different take for this fight?
So I had a little difficulty trying to pick a winner to this fight. And, I like doing my research. I like looking into things. My research may not be as in-depth as Dave, but I decided to go a unique route. I reached out to a psychic, a good friend of mine named Humberto Rabinowitz Lopez, based out of East New York. He sat down and he gave me his reading. And all he could see was a small fence and the state of Wyoming. So for that, I'm going to go with Cheyanne Bays because Dave's right. Ruiz has a great MMA name. That's a top-level MMA name. That is a 1970s second baseman for the San Diego Padres name, and you got to love it. But kind of padded, has not really – Invicta is a big promotion, but in that spotlight, her first time there, she choked against Danielle Taylor, literally and metaphorically speaking. And Cheyanne Bays, she's fought in the apex before. She has fought in the baby cage. She's fought in that environment before, and she succeeded exceedingly well. So all kind of everything kind of shapes it to Bays going 6-1. Humberto's rarely wrong, except for a few things involving a golf game that I'd rather not talk about.
Well, there you guys have it. If you guys do want to get in on this fight again via BetOnline, Cheyanne Bays is -360 and Montserrat Ruiz is +285. Let's move on to the next fight with welterweight Kenan Song versus Max Griffin. Via BetOnline, Griffin is -195 and Song is +170. Matt, I'll continue with you for your breakdown and pick for this next fight.
Well, Song 4-1 in his last 5. 3 of those wins by knockout, including his last fight, which was a first-round knockout of Callan Potter. Back in February of 2020. He's fought Israel Adesanya before when Adesanya was coming up in the world of mixed martial arts. That's about 6 years ago. So that's a lifetime, a couple of weight classes, and a few titles later. But that's a pretty impressive opponent. And Max Griffin, he got a win in his last fight. He knocked out Ramiz Brahimaj, but that stopped the 2-fight losing streak where he lost by decision to Alex Oliveira and Alex Moreno. He's 4-6 in his last 10, Griffin, with losses to Thiago Alves, Curtis Millender, and Colby Covington, to just name a few. That's a rough run of it for a fighter who's 16-8 overall, Song 16-5. I want to go with Song here because he seems like the fresher fighter. He's the guy that has just a little bit of an edge for me because he got that first-round knockout. He has been training. I'm not going to say a year away from the cage is a big thing. Dave just kind of called me to the carpet on that at the start of the show, so I'm not going to go down the ring rust road. But Griffin does have a bit of recency bias because he also got a knockout win in his last fight. But there's a lot on that, a lot of road that he is tread down. Knocked out 8, submitted 2, but has gone the distance 6 times for victory, 7 times for a loss. So he has gone to the scorecards 13 times in just about 24 fights. So just under or just around over 50% of his fights have gone the distance. And you got to admit that puts a lot of mileage on you. In comparison to Song, he's only been to the decision 5 times in his career. Twice he's gotten the win. He's gotten the loss 3 times. That's a little bit of pause. The deeper this, so basically, if this fight's to end early, I'm going with Song. But the deeper this fight goes, I feel more comfortable putting Griffin and the decision. If you're looking for a parlay piece, I would go with Griffin. I would give him the decision. I would not look at it for a stoppage, even though he has knocked out 8 opponents. And Song's been shinny twice, but I see this fight going to the decision, and I'm gonna go with Max Griffin. That's where I'm going.
Okay. I want to hear what Dave has to say. Do you agree with Matt, or do you have a different pick for this fight?
Yeah, I do actually agree with it's going to be, if Song's going to get this, he needs to get it early. Watching Song anytime he enters the 3rd round is nerve-wracking. His gas tank drops hard. It really does. Training out of Tiger Muay Thai. The only problem for me with this fight is the odds. Them odds on Max Griffin at -200 makes me nervous. And back to the ring rust thing. I think ring rust can be applied. It can be. If a fighter's injured or they're taking serious injuries and they are not active at all, then ring rust is certainly a thing. But yeah, Song here, been doing martial arts since he was a child, traditional Chinese martial arts, your Kung Fu, Tai Chi, Wushu, all that good stuff. his last fight with Kalen Potter. Now, he was training at the UFC PI Center, and then he moved to Tiger Muay Thai for that fight. And I think he's there for this camp as well. So he must be enjoying his time at Tiger Muay Thai. And he is on the 2-fight winning streak. The guy has power, and this is evident with his TKO stoppage. He's still aged 31. I'm giving him that little bit of time that he's still got on his hands. So there is time for improvement. He fought a guy in Derek Krantz, mixed up his striking well. He was light on his feet, moving on the outside, comfortable moving forward and backwards, took a unanimous decision in that one. Back to the Potter fight. He was pressuring Potter, some real precise striking. He's got power at short range and long range. And yeah, it didn't get far into the first round before Potter was licking the canvas due to Song's strikes. Song made a real good account of himself in that fight. And then we look at Max Griffin. I hate to say it, but he's an OG now, 35 years old, been fighting professionally for the past 12 years. He was a failed Ultimate Fighter contestant. It took him another 3 years before he could even get onto the UFC roster. And the thing with Max Griffin, he's had some great fights. The Mike Perry fight was a classic. The Dos Santos fight was a classic. I think both of them were fight of the nights. He hasn't reached that upper echelon in this company, but he always puts on a show. There's never a boring fight with either of these two guys. This is a real fight of the night contender. Max Griffin's got good boxing. He's a half decent wrestler, and he trains or used to train with Team Alpha Male. So he's got that experience behind him too. When it comes down to the matchup itself, like I mentioned, Griffin's 35 now. He's not going to be claiming no title, and I think he's just there to get a paycheck and put on some performances. He's got good striking and wrestling, all-round MMA skill. It seems to be there, and I feel like he is more well-rounded than his opponent, Song. Song's barely fought outside of China. He's had one lone fight outside of China in Australia against Potter, and he's 1-0 with that vicious stoppage. But when we watch both of these men strike, I can only imagine that somebody is going to get dropped in this fight. The smart plan for Griffin really would be to wrestle, because this is where I see him having a clear advantage. We saw Krantz easily take Song down in the second round of their fight. But even with that said, Griffin doesn't always choose the smartest game plan, and this is a guy you can tell he just loves to fight. So it's a tough one, and because of the odds, I do lean Griffin. But when it comes to betting this fight, especially how the results have been going lately in the smaller cage, and 2021 has been wild. It really has. Predictions are all over the place. I'll be the first to put my hands up. I've never had such a dodgy streak of results in my entire betting career. So for me, if you really want to bet this fight, I would not be opposed to a dog or pass situation here. If Griffin does neglect any grappling and he just decides to throw down with Song, fireworks are going to be let off, and I don't know who's going to drop. So I'll leave it at that and say, I lean Griffin, but in terms of betting, if Griffin doesn't have the correct game plan, this could be a first or second round knockout for Song for sure.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I'm personally not touching this fight. But if you guys do want to get in on this fight again via BetOnline, Griffin is -195 and Kenan Song is +170. But let's move on to the next fight. We have Bantamweight Adrian Yanez versus Gustavo Lopez. Via BetOnline, where is your name? Yanez is -210 and Lopez is +180. Dave, I will continue with you for your breakdown and pick for this next fight.
Adrian Yanez and Gustavo Lopez. This fight presents us with your classic striker versus grappler matchup. Yanez found a love for striking early because of his late father's love for the sport. He took up jiu-jitsu classes from young, and that kick-started his love for MMA. Yanez does have a ground game, apparently, but he's such a talented striker that you will really struggle to find a fight where he utilizes that side of his game. Lopez will have no choice but to enforce wrestling into this fight, or I feel like he's going to get picked apart on the feet for 3 rounds or get knocked out. He's a strong grappler, former Combate champion. In his previous fight, he finished Burchak by rear naked choke, but that was a real low level of opposition. He's got great top control. all-round grappling skills, and he will need to use these skills at the weekend or he's going to be in trouble. It's that simple. Yanez has slept both Brady Hoang on the Dana White Contender Series in the first round, and then Victor Rodriguez in his US debut, also in the first round. And yeah, you know what I can really appreciate here is an aggressive fighter who is able to keep his composure whilst being aggressive. And that's exactly what Yanez presents when he's in the octagon. See, once again, the problem for this fight in terms of betting is the odds. The odds have been switching. I've seen the odds at 180, back to 200. I've seen them at 230, minus 230 for Yanez. And, you know, these odds should be a little closer because through Yanez's impressive striking output, we still haven't seen him enough in the UFC yet. And he also went on record. I can't remember what interview it was. But he's saying that he wants to show off his ground skills, and that's fine. But I'm not sure if that's just a nervousness or, you know, some type of reverse psychology on Gustavo Lopez not to take it to the ground. But that's all Lopez is good at, I'm afraid. That's his bread and butter. Yeah, it's tough. But we see both John Castaneda and Andre will have knocked Lopez out during his career. Yanez is a sniper with the patience that's required, and it's working. He's getting these first round finishes, but he's not coming out and forcing that. As I mentioned before, he's aggressive, but he's patient with it, and I really do like that. I just don't like the odds. But it's simple for Yanez here. Defend the takedown, pick your shots, and he'll take a unanimous decision or a knockout. It is that simple. It's just, you know, is that going to happen? Because Lopez is going to be spamming the takedowns. He really is. So, you know, maybe we will see Yanez's ground game. Maybe he'll get a sub. I know he likes jiu-jitsu. I know he's been doing that since a kid. We just haven't seen it. So this is yet another fight that I'm really looking forward to. And it's another fight that could be going for fight of the night. It really could. This is a fire main card. I love it.
I don't know why, when I was looking into this fight, I actually liked the odds on Gustavo Lopez. I don't know why. It's just appealing to me, but I'll get into that later. But, Matt, I want to hear what you have to say for this next fight with Yanez versus Lopez.
This feels like a smoker fight for you boxing fans out there, just waiting to happen. You take a look, and Dave broke this down lovely. Like, Gustavo Lopez has only gone past the first round twice in his last 9 fights. Both of those fights went to a decision. So 7 of his last 9 fights have ended emphatically. He's 1-1 since joining the UFC. His last win was his first UFC win, which was a submission over an Anthony Burchak. And Yanez, 5 straight wins, all of them by KO or TKO. Lopez had 3 straight first-round submission wins in Combate America, though. So both of these guys are known for stopping it early. This one is all dependent upon how they can utilize that cage. If Lopez can utilize that pressure, get Yanez down. Yanez has pulled a couple of submissions before. He's yet to tap. But this one's a hard one. If I'm looking at this and I'm looking to place a bet, I'm looking at Lopez, I'm looking at a sub, and I'm looking at the under. This one is all about the variables. I think Dave would agree that this fight ended early. We're not going to the scorecards here. Both of these guys are going to look to truck one another, whether that's with a knockout or a submission. This is going to be an early night. Dave said this is a fight of the night candidate. I am inclined to agree. When you get 2 guys in there who are killers, who are finishers, who are looking to decimate one another, like I am decimating this latte right now, the sugar high is incalculable. And so are the odds of this fight going to a decision. I just like this fight going to Lopez. I like it with the submission, and I like it coming with the under.
Yeah. Now, I was just looking at the props for this. And to go the distance, no is favored. And from the looks of it, everyone's favoring Adrian Yanez to win by knockout in the first round. But I will say for Gustavo Lopez, by submission, that is at plus 650. Adrian Yanez by KO or TKO is at plus 150. So It's all up to you guys. Do your research like always. But again, if you want to get in on this fight straight up via Bet Online, Yanez is minus 210 and Lopez is plus 180. But let's move on to the co-main event. We have lightweight Gregor Gillespie and Brad Riddell. Via Bet Online, Gillespie is minus 240 and Riddell is plus 205. Matt, I'll continue with you for your breakdown and pick for the co-main.
First of all, let's pour one out for the big boy fight that got pulled from this card. Let's just take a moment of silence. All right, now back to this. First of all, Gregor Gillespie, a former assistant coach at one of the schools I went to, Hofstra University, Roll Pride, coming to the octagon, returning after his first career loss when he got slept by Kevin Lee in October of 2019. Just trying to reassess everything, especially with the world being where it is right now. This is an opportunity for Gillespie to get back on the winning track. He was 6-0 in the UFC, 5 of them being stoppage wins coming in the first 2 rounds of the fight. So that's a big thing, especially in the UFC, when you're getting that amount of wins that early, especially by stoppage. His biggest win, though, came just a few months before his biggest loss, and that was against Yancy Medeiros in what could conceivably be his hometown of Brooklyn inside Barclays Center. Was at that fight, at that card. That knockout was pretty. And he's knocked out 6, submitted 5, 2 decision wins. For Riddell, he's 9-1, so that's, it's a pretty solid record. All 3 of his UFC wins have come by decision, though. This is his biggest fight to date. He's gotten 4 decision wins. He's knocked out 5. I really don't see Riddell getting the win here. He's riding a hot streak, but I think Gillespie, with his ability as a coach and as a competitor, you have that two-way mindset. We've brought it up before to where you can see things. And if he steps outside of himself, that may be a problem. But if he's focused inside that cage, if Kevin Lee was his biggest threat to date, and Kevin Lee is one of the top fighters in the UFC, a guy that constantly gets slept on, even though he's not had the best record as of late, but he's on the come up, in my opinion. I see Gillespie getting the win here. I see Gillespie. I could see this going to a decision because Riddell, his 6 straight wins, he's a tough out. He's gone to the decision in all of his UFC fights. But I see Gillespie going 14-1, and that is not a Hofstra bias because that whole area is a nightmare. But I do think that Gillespie has the edge coming into this fight. I think that layoff is good for him to get his mind right, get himself healthy. I think he's not stopped training. Dave could probably give you a better breakdown of what's going on from the last time we saw him inside the octagon. But I do believe Gillespie's got the edge here, and I think that he's going to take it, most likely by decision.
All right, beautiful. Well, how about you, Dave? Do you want to piggyback off of what Matt just said?
Yeah, it's as simple as this. Smart guys will take a long time off after you nearly just got murdered, basically. And that's what happened. If you want to see the closest thing to a murder in the octagon, go and watch Kevin Lee versus Gregor Gillespie, because that is uncomfortable. What a knockout. But before that, Gregor Gillespie was dominating. He was 12-0. And when I say dominating, I mean dominating. Andrew Holbrook got taken down, ground and pounded in the first round. Gonzalez taken down, arm triangled in the second round. Rinaldi got taken down, ground and pounded in the first round. Vince Pichel taken down, arm triangle, round 2. Yancy Medeiros taken down, ground and pound, round 2. Dominant performances. Gregor Gillespie proved that he's worthy of these top level opponents. Collegiate wrestling graduate, NCAA Division I champion. He's still holding records to this day. And the only reason he quit is because he didn't believe that he could beat the probably the most famous American wrestler, Jordan Burroughs. At 149 pounds, he is a 4-time NCAA Division I All-American. He is the first true freshman in school history, that he holds a record for most wins, 152, and the most as a freshman as well, with 40. And he got into MMA through teaching fighters how to wrestle, and was basically in denial for the longest time that he'd never be a fighter. And now here we are. He's 13-1 with his only professional loss against title challenger Kevin Lee, which, it is a huge shame, because that high kick knockout is now what he's most known for, unfortunately. A lengthy layoff, it does raise question marks. And when a fighter is coming off their first loss from such a harsh knockout, it is hard to know where they're at mentally. Not so much physically, but the mental game plays a huge part of this. Now, besides that, Gillespie, he is good. He is really good on the mat. He, as I mentioned at the start of this breakdown, he dominated all his fights in a Khabib-esque style of ground domination, and people were even tipping him to be the guy that would challenge Khabib in the wrestling. Now, yeah, look, the names that he dominated him for, they're not huge UFC stars, but Gillespie has shown that he is an elite, and when you're so good in one area like that, the lower level of opposition, that they're just not coming close. Onto his opponent, Brad Riddell, City Kickboxing. I'm not sure what it's like in that gym right now. Coming off, I think it was their first loss as a gym when they're all fighting on the same card, because they've fought on a lot of cards together and they always end up winning more than they lose. But you know, after Israel and his buddy lost on that card last week, it's a bit rough. But the thing with Riddell is he's a striker. He's the exact opposite of his opponent this weekend, and we were mentioning the striker versus grappler matchup before, but this is a true striker versus grappler matchup. We can say 100% that if this fight stays standing, Riddell is going to win. If this fight goes to the ground, Gillespie's going to win. Now, Riddell fell into the MMA world by accident. He flew out for a Muay Thai fight and then realized it was an MMA fight. But, you know, City Kickboxing being the badasses that they are, he didn't care. He took it. And then he thought, you know what? I'm a kickboxer. I'm a Muay Thai fighter. Why not add MMA too? So, you know, as you've probably already guessed, Brad Riddell, he is an elite level striker. He is a coach at the City Kickboxing Gym too. He fought for the Glory of Heroes promotion, and he actually knocked out Kenan Song, who's on tonight, the same card. So he's legit as it comes when it comes to striking. And on his UFC debut, he got the Fight of the Night bonus against Malaki. So striking is not the worry here. But if we look at the grapplers that he's faced in a fight, quite controversial. I think a lot of people scored that fight against Magomed Mustafayev for the Russian because of the grappling. Riddell couldn't handle the grappling of Mustafayev. Is he going to handle the grappling of one of the best wrestlers the UFC has? Probably not. Look, another striker versus grappler matchup. Simple to break down. It's gonna be Gillespie for me. He's gonna just be spamming takedowns. He's not gonna we might see him on the feet and he'll be using the striking to get inside, but other than that, it's gonna be a level change. It's gonna be level changes all night. If he doesn't get the submission or ground and pound finish in round one, Riddell's a tough dude. I think he'll take the strikes on the ground. So I feel like Gillespie is gonna be looking for a neck or an arm or something on the ground. Yeah, I'm all over Gillespie on this fight. I think he's gonna dominate because that's what he does and that's what he has been doing. Unless Brad Riddell has pulled out some lifelong grappling experience from his back pocket, then I don't see this going in favor for him. Other than, you know, look, we've seen crazier things happen. You know, Conor McGregor's 14-second knockout, things like that is always possible. Of course it is. But when you're betting money, that is not what you want to bet money on. You want to bet money on the stronger side, and the stronger side in this fight is Gregor Gillespie for me.
And I was actually looking at the MMA props as well for this fight, and it appears people are favoring Gillespie by submission over TKO. Gillespie by submission is at plus 225, and Gillespie by TKO or KO is at plus 500. So, again, do your shopping, do your research. There's a lot of value for you guys out there. So, again, if you want to get them straight up via VenaLine, it's Gillespie is minus 240 and Riddell is plus 205. Let's move on to the main event, and this is going to be a great fight. We have middleweight Derek Brunson versus Kevin Holland. Via BetOnline, Kevin Holland is minus 163, and Derek Brunson is plus 143. Dave, I'll continue with you for your breakdown and pick for the main event.
Yeah, if you follow me on Twitter, you already know I'm all over Kevin Holland. Holland is one of the hungriest fighters on the roster. You will not find fighters as active as Holland inside and outside of the UFC. And another significant victory this weekend against a guy in Derek Brunson. It's going to make it 6 wins within the year. Now, that's going to surpass the current UFC record, which is tied with of 5 fights in 1 year. Incredible work rate like that is just, it's what you want to back, man. He's got a vast experience in such a short amount of time. 5-year professional. You would not believe that when seeing him in the octagon. He's got a large stature. He's got the youth advantage. And most importantly, finishing ability. I do not believe any UFC supporter is going to be surprised at a finish from Holland this weekend or in any of his other fights. Within 2 years of fighting for the UFC, Holland has consumed all the experience possible, except in every fight. He's now competed 10 times for the UFC, only 2 losses, and those 2 losses are coming against Thiago Santos and Brendan Allen. Like, come on, 5 years the guy has been fighting. When he's not in the octagon, you might even catch him in a grappling bout or a Muay Thai bout. Now, he has made a bit of a name for himself in the UFC, so we probably won't see him in these grappling and Muay Thai bouts so much, but it just shows that this kid is relentless and he is hungry. With Chimaev gone, he is the hottest prospect right now, and he is definitely the hottest prospect in the middleweight division. After that first round knockout over former title challenger and BJJ world champion Jacare Souza, the ceiling for this kid is limitless. Holland has got a BJJ threat, he's got a knockout threat, and he's just a complete martial artist. His skill set is so dangerous, and he's a self-proclaimed crazy man. He beats guys, and he openly stands there and says, "I am crazy." So when I look into his eyes, I see a lot of myself in him, and I love it. I really do love it. I love Kellen Holland. Now, through Brunson's newfound calmness, Brunson used to take a lot of slack, and the slack came from his reckless style. On the feet, lunging around, chin down, hands down, throwing wild strikes. Now, Brunson is the same. I hate to break the news. He has just stopped his pressuring. He has stopped coming out and rushing that, and he has been utilizing what he's good at a bit more, and that's the wrestling. He's going to hold a wrestling advantage. So now it's easy to say, well, Brunson, you need to come out and wrestle, because let's look at the last fight against Jacare. Holland is knocking a man out while stunning a man into an eventual TKO off his back. Anybody that has arms that long and has the power off their back is going to be scary for anyone. So if I'm Derek Brunson, I'm thinking, well, I need to come out and I need to wrestle this guy. In the back of my mind, that fight with Souza is just replaying. And I'm more defensive whilst I'm on top than I usually would be. And if Brunson likes to take his guys down, ground and pound. I hate that. I can't believe I'm breaking it down like this, but he's leaving himself open in top guard to a guy that has power off his back and a huge plethora of submissions that he wants to throw up. Now, Holland's got all the advantages for me in this fight. And look, he's faster, younger, he's the more prominent fighter. He is just... He's the complete package for me. And look, he has had moments of recklessness. We have seen that. But his defense and him not getting finished, he's not a guy that gets finished often. And look, the odds are favoring Holland, but for some reason we're seeing a lot of heavy lines this week. But I can find Holland at minus 160. For me, that is huge value, because if Brunson does use a wrestling strategy, I do not believe he's going to get the finish, and I think he's going to get tired. Whereas Kevin Holland is non-stop. I think Kevin Holland is dangerous everywhere, from the start of the fight to the end of the fight, standing on the floor against the cage, no matter where he is. I think this is going to be Kevin Holland's fight, and I think he's going to get it done inside the distance, especially with 25 minutes on the clock. I cannot see Derek Brunson doing what he's done to his past opponents against a guy in Kevin Holland. The hype is real, ladies and gentlemen, and this is my lock, this is my bet, this is everything. I really do like Kevin Holland this weekend. And with that price, we don't even have to parlay him up, and you can get plus money on him to do it inside the distance. I'm going to be on this fight probably 2 ways, and I'm not a guy that likes to throw units around, but I will be probably looking at between, it's going to be probably 2 units spread out on Holland this weekend. I really do like him. The current odds are favouring him. I'm just really surprised they're not favouring him more. And I appreciate that value. Brunson's durability has always been questioned, and he's on a 3-fight win streak, but this older, slower, more damaged fighter is not going to outwit Kevin Holland, I don't think. And I think Yeah, and this is all Kevin Holland this weekend.
Yeah, like just how you just said, I'm surprised he wasn't juiced more than how he is now. But I was just looking when you said Kevin Holland inside the distance. Kevin Holland inside the distance is at plus 110, so there's a lot of value if you search around. But Matt, I would love to hear your pick and breakdown for the main event.
Okie dokie then. So when it comes to this main event, yeah, Derek Brunson's in trouble because Kevin Holland, much like James Brown, he knows karate and he knows martial arts. So already, also listen to Live at the Apollo from James Brown, the first one. If you haven't yet, what's wrong with you as a human being? Kevin Holland's on a 5-fight winning streak. The last one coming against Jacare back in December of 2020 with a first-round TKO, which is what happened to Derek Brunson when he faced Jacare. He got dusted in the first round. Derek Brunson, it's a bit of recency bias with Kevin Holland because he's got the fighting resume and the fighting consistency of a 1920s middleweight. He's just fighting what seems like every other week. So Kevin Holland has turned into the yeoman, the working man of the UFC, and you love to see it. Yeah, for Holland, his last 3 wins are against, for Brunson, his last 3 wins are against Elias Theodorou, Ian Heinisch, and Edmund Shabazian. Those aren't terrible fighters. But when you take a look at Kevin Holland, who he beat just in 2020, Jacare, Charlie Aldeveros, Darren Stewart, Joaquin Buckley, Anthony Hernandez, he was leveling up with each of those fights. And, a freak loss to Brendan Allen via submission, the loss to Thiago Santos in the UFC. It's hard to root against Kevin Holland here and him finishing it before championship rounds. Like, I don't think we're going to the 3rd round with this fight, to be completely honest with you. I'm going with Kevin Holland. I think that he's going to get the stoppage. I think that Derek Brunson's going to put up one hell of a fight. But when we take a look at his chin, Brunson's been knocked out 5 times. He's never been submitted, but he's been knocked out 5 times. So in that smaller cage with less of a gap between them, a bit more pressure, ever since the Shabazian fight, I'm assuming Brunson's been training, but he's only been inside that baby cage once. Kevin Holland has basically made that his home away from home. So when you step inside there on Saturday night in the main event, there's no real way for me to see unless Brunson's able to take down Holland off rip and just make it all about the grappling. If he takes the Khabib playbook and just basically grinds and grinds and grinds for 5 rounds, there's no real way for me seeing Derek Brunson getting the win. For me, it's all Kevin Holland, straight cash homie, getting the win on Saturday night.
Love it. It's very hard to bet against Kevin Holland, I must say. But if you guys do want to get in on this fight again via BetOnline, Kevin Holland is minus 163 and Derek Brunson is plus 143. And again, check out the props. There's a lot of value in the props. Do your research. I know I keep saying it, but trust me, it's there for you. But that's all we have for the main card breakdown. Now I just want to move on over to our prelims. Do you guys have a top prelim fight? Matt, I will start with you. What is your favorite prelim fight you're looking out for, or do you have a lock of the night?
Well, I think Marion Renault and Macy Cheyanne, the top fight in the prelim, should be the starting fight of the main card. Renault 9-6-1, Cheyanne 7-1. So some really quality competitors inside the cage. I think that deserves to get a little bit more of a spotlight than the fight we have starting the main card. And that's no slander against Baez and Cogneto. That for me is just looking at the fight, looking at the components of those fights. I think that fight should be earlier in the prelims. But we've got a little sneaky middleweight fight, Trevin Giles and Roman Dolidze. Dolidze is 8-0 inside the octagon. Giles is 13-2. That one's going to be a fun fight to watch. The prelims on this fight are kind of as exciting, if not more exciting, than parts of the main card. If I'm looking for a lock of the night, I'm going to go, you know what? Montel Jackson. Why? Because his name is Montel Jackson, and I just like the name. He's going up against Jesse Strader, who is 5-1, but I believe this is Strader's UFC debut because when you look at the card online, you don't get a photo. And for me, if the man doesn't have a photo, if the fighter doesn't have a photo on their UFC preview, I can't in good conscience do it. It's like picking the Duke of Dorchester, Pete Doherty, to win against Bret Hart in 1994 on an episode of Superstars. You just can't do it. It's called the Dwayne Gill variable. If they're already in the ring, they're not going to win. And that's how I feel about that fight. But if you're looking for a true lock of the night, if you're looking for something, it's Kevin Holland. Kevin Holland is the obvious lock of the night.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, you brought up Montel Jackson, and I looked at his odds. Do you know what his odds are? He is minus 750.
Don't bet him odds.
Minus 750.
You're gonna have to pay out 7 units to pick up 1 unit. In a guy in Montel Jackson. Now look, I do think he's gonna win. The odds are there for a reason, but it's these type of fights in the history of these big underdogs coming through he could be a letdown fighter in this position. Mm-hmm. And Strada, he looks a bit like James Krause with a mustache. If you're needing a visual image for him, Matt. It is a tough debut for him. But with that said, he's coming off 2 knockouts, man, and I think these boys are going to swing. So it will be an interesting fight. I do think Montel Jackson will win, but these odds are what's messing up this card, in my opinion. It's the same with Julia Avila. I liked Avila. I was hoping to get some decent odds on her, but no. You're having to pay up seriously here. So for me, because we want some decent odds, I think Roman Dolidze is a good shot. I think JP Bays. In fact, I think a husband and wife parlay this weekend wouldn't be the worst idea. Bruno Silva's a dangerous guy, but he's coming off 2 losses. Them 2 losses are in the UFC, and this to me could be like, well, Bruno Silva looks good on the regionals, but he's got to the UFC and now he's a bit of a flop. And JP Bays is making his debut, but this kid can fight, man. And yeah, husband and wife parlay. I like that.
I like that too. That sounds really nice, actually. But no, so JP Bays, he's minus 141. Bruno Silva is plus 121. I'm glad that you brought up the Julia Avila fight because I'm actually looking forward for that one. But like you said, she's juiced heavily. She's minus 400. Julia Soliarenko is plus 300. I'm just looking at all the odds. Again, what I'm looking forward to is the Marion Renault fight. I'm really looking forward to that fight. But again, I'm most likely not betting it. Macy Chiasson is juiced at minus 206 and Renault is plus 176. But yeah, there you guys have it. But let's go into the chat real quick because I'm pretty sure I saw a few comments. I know I saw an I miss you, Dave, somewhere. Yeah, reviews with VP. He misses you, Dave.
God bless you, sir.
Yes.
Hey, I'm on Twitter. I'm always on Twitter. My DMs are open to everyone.
Yeah, always go on Twitter. I always recommend following Dave on Twitter and Matt. And Ruslan Halovkin said, how did you... I'm not going to curse. MF's Miss Jinyu Frey told you she'll be a sleeper of the last card. Plus 190.
You know what? I forgot to mention that because I did mention last week that she was too small and she proved me very wrong. But from a card that was very entertaining last week, that fight was the one that was a bit, because it's all well and good. And I think it's, to come out and give it, that Khabib, I'm just going to wrestle the hell out of you. But when you get to the ground and you're doing nothing, it really bothers me. And she held her positions. When the referee was saying he's going to stand it up, she'd do something. And it was very lackluster. And I understand, like, sometimes you've got to do that to win the fight. But for me, it was annoying. It was an annoying way to lose. But, fair play to Jinyu Frey. She got the job done.
Yeah. Kind of makes me a little proud, too, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thomas Kane said, I find this interesting. Thomas Kane said, I may sprinkle in some Brunson in the 5th round, small, but I'm all over Holland. Just don't know if Holland can go 5, like I said, going small. That's interesting. But Pepe Silva said Holland has better cardio than Brunson, Thomas. Brunson doesn't have the grappling that Brendan Allen does. Round 2 KO, in my opinion. UFC really wants to showcase Cheyanne Bays. That's not bad. I like that.
That's why she's on the main card, yeah. That's why we're seeing her replace that other female fight, which Matt spoke of. I think it's Dana doing what Dana does and trying to put people on.
Yeah.
It's all a marketing scam, guys. It's all Hollywood blasey nonsense. We get it, but it's more of the, like, as fight fans, and I see some people saying, you're pronouncing names wrong. Sorry, we don't have pronunciations. It's early in the morning here in New York. It's late in the day in the UK. If we had giant placards or if the UFC bothered to have pronunciation guides and we could remember them, that'd be great. I could say Khabib Nurmagomedov. I can get a lot of the other names right. The data we have is good. We just try our best with the talk speak thing. You can trust in mainly Dave and Lee. Me, I'm the carnival act here.
I kid you not. I watch the fights and I have their name in my head, but then I have how I want to pronounce the name, and then I get confused. So it's just their name, but we do have the information right. But Pepe Silva, he's giving out good advice. Julia Avila by ref stoppage. That's an interesting one because there's a lot of value on that. And then he also said, careful parlaying JP Bays, in my opinion. Riddell and Doled's pronunciations were deaf off. Okay, yeah, the pronunciations. But I do like Julia Avila, honestly, and I do like her odds. But again, I'm most likely not touching it. But that is all we have for our entire main card breakdown. If there are any fights that we didn't miss, we're most likely going to include it into our social media or our articles. If you aren't following the guys on Twitter, definitely give them a follow. You can follow Dave at @DManion_, and you can follow Matt at MRyan Consulting. And then while you're at it, give SBR a follow at SBR Sports Picks. And if you want to find more breakdowns and picks from all of SBR's UFC experts, just go to sbrpicks.com/UFC. And yes, there you can find all of Dave's articles, okay? So definitely check it out. Now, I wish you all the best of luck. Also, happy St. Patrick's Day. I'll see you guys around. Best of luck this weekend. I'll see you next week.